Officials of the Data Protection Commission have arrested a woman for selling documents containing confidential details. Nade Jani had sacks of printed employment information about GES workers, payrolls and medical details of public workers, which she sells to traders in Accra. She had in her possession papers that contain medical bills as well, pay slips, appointment letters, payrolls and other confidential employee information, including names, contact and personal details. Head of the Incident Management Response Team at the Commission tells JoyNews the documents, which date as recent as 2018, were sold to roasted plantain sellers. PSA Nanaya Safo's report read to you.
The material has been confiscated by the cybercrime unit of the Medina police station, led by Inspector Emmanuel Ansafianko and Corporal Dennis Quay. According to the head of Incident Management Response Team at the Data Protection Commission, Dennis Aqua, this arrest began with a roasted plantain.
We have this incident that we took yesterday where an individual went and bought an item from a roasted plantain seller, and then plantain was wrapped in documents having personal elements in them. Now we took that lead and went to the place where we bought the plantain, and then the lead also took us to the person who is selling these documents in bulk. Now, we, as a commission, we have to ensure that the individual's privacy is protected. So we went there and then took this person in with the police, invited this person to the police to ensure that we invite the person and then investigate and interrogate the person. We took this exercise because these things are happening. People are using people's personal data incessantly. They take the personal data without even asking permission, giving recourse to the person they are taking the data from, or possibly they don't even have law or the legal legitimate grounds backing the data they are taking.
The team proceeded to the Medina market where Nade Jani keeps the document. She was questioned at the Medina police station where she denied knowledge of any wrongdoing.
Many vendors come over to sell such papers to me. I buy and also resell them. I sell them as wrappers for the food vendors. I deal in newspapers too. I have been doing this for 3 years.
Her customers range from fish, roasted plantain, corn, and kelewele sellers. Director of Cybercrime Unit, Dr. Herbert Yankson of the CID, spoke to JoyNews after questioning the suspects.
We've made an arrest for the offense of prohibition of sale of personal data. This is against the law. It's against Section 89 of the Data Protection Act. And so we informed Data Protection, and together we effected an arrest. Data Protection Act, Section 89, and I read prohibition of sale of personal data. A person who sells or offers to sell personal data of another person commits an offense and is liable on summary conviction to a fine of not more than 2,500 penalty units or to a term of imprisonment of not more than 5 years. One of the biggest problems where we just go and sell it in the open market, and then the Nkatia sellers and the cocoa sellers and everybody, those selling roasted plantain and granules, would come buy them. But this is personal data. We should desist from that. They would compromise their privacy, to compromise their security, and it's not right.
The Ghana Police Service, Central Intelligence Department, and Data Protection Commission is warning the public against selling and sharing confidential personnel information. PSA Nana Yao Safo's report for JoyNews.
Joining me in the studio is Head of Incident Management Response Team at the Data Protection Commission, Dennis Dakwa, so we can explore this matter a bit further. He's also the contact person for the intra-ministerial incident response management team. Mr. Dakwa, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So let's talk about the genesis of this, what has led to the arrest. This is the first time I'm hearing this happen in Ghana. Is this something that you do usually, or is this new?
Okay. I would like to use this opportunity to greet your lovely viewers. And yes, just as you said, this is not new. This month is the Cyber Security Month, and as part of this, we are doing this in conjunction with the police and in tracking every cyber security incident issue. And then anything from our perspective, our data protection, anything that is related to personal data, we are more concerned.
Okay, so this is more of a personal data issue.
Sure.
That's what. So the question I was asking is this new? You say this is Cybersecurity Month,
sure.
And as part of the Cybersecurity Month, you're looking generally at anything that borders on personal data. And I'm asking the arrest of persons, for example, who are selling these documents. I mean, they're not really. Who you arrested today is the end user.
Okay.
As in this woman who used these papers or sells these papers, exactly. Yeah. Is this something you've been doing or we've been doing in this country that we didn't know about, or is it an introduction to help deal with this problem?
Okay. So for now, it is something new, because we always know that these things happen, but then as a commission, this is the first time we have made such an incursion in the news.
Okay. And is there any specific thing that directed you to this area or focus?
Okay. I can say last Tuesday, we had the executive director on her permission to get some foodstuff, found out that the foodstuff that was brought to her was wrapped in a document that contained personal data.
Okay.
And we thought that is going so high that even the executive director of the commission, whose mandate is to seek to protect the individual's personal data and their privacy, has her foodstuff wrapped in a document that contains personal data. So we had to take this up, because then it is growing increasingly and to today's highest point.
Okay.
And so we took this up and then ensure that at least we use this as a test case to ensure that these things stop once and for all.
Okay, so confirm this is more like a test case.
Sure.
Because I'm saying this because from back when I was little, we've seen several people. The browning katia seller, the roasted plantain seller, they've all been using this for a very, very long time. The law, the part of the law which was read in the story, says that anybody who is found selling personal data risks going to jail for 5 years. Okay. But in this particular case, he said 5 years, and he seems to be reading from a document. In this particular instance, where you've arrested this is a woman.
Okay.
She is not selling personal data. She's selling paper, essentially rubbish that has been sold to her.
Okay.
How do you differentiate between selling personal data and just selling rubbish?
Now, I want to take it from a processing point of view.
Okay.
Processing and data protection is a technical word that includes even disclosing and destruction. And so, whoever had the information in custody and then had to dispose them off didn't use the appropriate means to dispose them off.
Okay.
And so, in trying to dispose them off, disclose it to somebody who is also unauthorized to have this information.
Okay.
And so, in that case, the processing was not proper.
Okay.
Okay.
What is the proper process?
The proper process here is to shred. If you have no use of the personal data, you shred them.
Yeah.
Okay. So that put it in such a way that nobody can even intelligibly get hold of the data again. If it is in a soft copy or in a hard drive, you ensure that the hard drive can never be retrieved, or the information on the hard drive can never be retrieved again.
Okay.
Sure.
But that did not happen in this instance. So for this woman who is selling the paper as rubbish,
okay,
what is her offense?
Okay, her offense in the act says that if you purchase or disclose knowingly or unknowingly, you are liable to the law. So in this case, either she didn't know that whatever she had was whatever she purchased, because according to her, she purchased it from somebody, a second party, who sold it for her. He comes to there and then sells it to her.
Yeah.
Now, because she purchased it knowingly unknowingly and then disclosing it to people who are not supposed to also have access, that she's
liable. The document obviously came from somewhere to her.
Sure.
She said that people bring it to her, she buys it, and then she sells it. She has been, and there are names of the organizations on these papers, so it's very easy to trace it back to where it came from. What role do these organizations play? Who is liable, and to what extent are those organizations from where these documents came liable?
So in this particular instance, a lot of audits will have to go, a lot of investigation has to take place. We have to do audit, go through a certain process. Now, firstly, we got hold of the person who was selling the granuts and then roasted plantain, and then through that we had the lead to the woman who was also being another person, and then the woman will lead us to possibly whoever was within the organization, or also another man doing that. So through that audit process or the investigation process, we will get to know where these informations are coming from. We cannot at this point say that whether whichever ministry or department or agency is mentioned here is liable, because then, of course, we want to know there's probably somebody in there who is not doing the job properly.
But because then it comes back to the issue of disposal, which you mentioned, that there's a wrong way of disposal which they've done. But what training has gone into it? Because like I'm saying, this has been happening since we were little kids. We've seen it happen over and over again, which means that it is an organizational structure. I mean, it's something organizational. They do it in the organization. What it means is that as part of the work of the Data Protection Agency or Commission, you have not engaged these ministries or agencies on the proper disposal of such data.
That I cannot say is the case, because as I'm speaking with you currently, we have trained, the Act specifies that every organization has to have a representative who would act as a liaison between the commission and then the organization. The person will be trained by the commission, and then also the person will also undertake the monitoring and the compliance aspect of the Data Protection Act in the organization. As I'm speaking right now, over 100 data protection supervisors who are supposed to be liaison between the commission and then the entities, that is the ministries and agencies, have been trained. And so from the point of view, from the commission's point of view, a lot have been done. And it's either that the data protection supervisors within the organizations are not going through their monitoring process well, or possibly there's a process lapse that has to be looked also into.
Exactly the point I was coming to, because I was going to say that is even a bigger problem. It's even a bigger challenge when you have actually trained them, and you have given them lessons, and we're still having this problem. It means, like you said, it comes back to perhaps a lapse there that needs to be covered, or that needs to be sealed. And I'm wondering, what is the plan of the Data Protection Commission, as you've seen that despite the training, despite the lessons, we're still having this problem on our hands?
So then it means that it's either the information has not gone well. So what we have to do is that we intensify our awareness creation and then training. So then, if from what we saw, we realized that these documents came from different districts. So possibly an entity may have had a person trained in Accra, but in the districts, there wouldn't be a representative out there. So it's either we increase the number of trainees or liaisons that are supposed to monitor compliance with the provisions of the Act for the entity, or we as a commission intensify our awareness creation program, for which we have done. In-house, we have an in-house training section that we call it the working section, where organizations come to also have their bits on data protection and what they are supposed to do, their rights and their responsibilities under the Act. So a lot have been doing, we've been doing a lot, and compliance, trying to help organizations go through compliance journey, and then again, we are also having enforcement. So a lot is going on.
Well, if you say a lot is going on, but for something that has become almost cultural, you might need a lot more than what's happening at the moment. And I believe that that's the perspective that Ghanaians will see, because a lot of people have seen nothing wrong with this for a very long time. People have seen people's application letters out there, and as recent as 2018, some of the documents are seen. So certainly there's a gap that needs to be filled. What's going to happen to this woman who has now been arrested? Obviously, she was ignorant.
So
I'm not saying ignorance of the law is an excuse, as they say, but What's going to happen to her in this case?
So currently, just as we moved out of the police station yesterday, she was still under investigation. Her statement has been put down, and I'm sure the cybercrime unit of the police are also doing their work to ensure that they take us through the lead, so that we get to know where and who sold the document and where she got it. Okay,
and you're hoping that this will be a deterrent to people who are selling or bringing these documents out. Apart from that, on the bigger scale, what is a commission engaged in as far as data protection? Since, like you said, it's Cyber Security Month, what exactly has been the preoccupation of the data protection?
Okay, so this year, to be precise, we embarked on, we had an agenda to monitor compliance and also do enforcement. So a lot of enforcement, the act mandates every organization that intends to process data or processing personal data to register with the Data Protection Commission. Okay, now the first stage of compliance is to register with the commission. So until you register, and then we know as a commission that you are processing personal data legally or lawfully, we might even not know what you're doing. So all these organizations that are not registered with the Data Protection Commission are in breach of the Data Protection Act. So we are creating more awareness to ensure that we get a lot of organizations, every organization that processes personal data in our books, because we are mandated to keep a data protection register and to monitor the compliance and then monitor that every institution processing data is doing it legally and lawfully.
Give us a fair idea of the kind of organization, so that if people are watching, if those people are watching, they will know that if they have not registered with the Data Protection Commission, they're breaching the law. An idea of, you say anybody who processes personal data, but give us a fair idea. So we can take, for example, the hospitals, maybe the telcos, but again, broaden it for us so that people, break it down for people to understand the kind of work you do, which requires that you should register with the commission.
So in personal data, every organization has got staff, I'm sure. And every staff, even before you employ the person, you may have to take the person's personal details. And so in short, every organization, either incorporated, unlimited liability companies, unlimited, or what we call it, enterprises are supposed to register. So no organization is left out of the book.
So essentially every company needs to register with the Data Protection Commission. Every organization that processes, that takes any form of data, name, age, telephone number,
beliefs, anything,
you need to register. Well, if you're watching, someone has been arrested today, they're still going through the process. Like I indicated, ignorance of the law is no excuse, and when you're caught, the law will have to deal with you. But if you have not registered, this is an opportunity for you to reach out to the Data Protection Agency. As long as you take in any data on individuals, any personal data on individuals, you're supposed to register with them. Final words before we wrap up, Mr. Dakwa.
Okay, so just as it has been a test case, we know that these things is going on in the public domain. People are using people's personal data without even seeking consent and even knowing that they are in breach of the law. This case, as it comes, is a test case for us. It's a wake-up call for all of us. Whoever is using personal data unlawfully or illegally, it's a test case for you. You have to desist from it, because if not, the Data Protection Commission will be on your neck.
Dennis Dakwa is Research and Policy Officer with the Data Protection Agency. She's also the contact person for the Intra-Ministerial Incident Response Management Team. Thank you very much for coming and for the education.